I care that it has resulted in people being blocked from getting the whistleblower testimony and the evidence that they are asking for, because it put a chill through the system that if they met with me, they would be meeting with a foreign espionage agent. That is what has happened in the last while. Now, it's been going on a while. Now we have the proof and the statements from members of Congress that this is in fact what's been said. And this is a very big problem. I don't think they realize, these operators, how much trouble they're in.
Wow. You're being attacked from all sides. And with the
Well,
background,
that's been going on for 30 years. I mean, I expect that.
when I talked to Tim Burchett, he said that he believed that there was a lot of people being sent to his office to give him disinformation, and they were actually put there for that purpose, to lead them down the wrong road.
Of course, I mean, you have people who we know have been doing this, like Elizondo and that whole crowd.
Did you see that photograph that Elizondo put out, and he showed it to Congress, and it turned out, he said it was this big, massive flying saucer, but it turned out to be an irrigation crop circle, and he's putting it out as evidence. What do you make of you should be vetting the information before displaying it?
Let me give everyone a little history lesson. Back in the 50s, the CIA engaged Donald Menzel, Dr. Menzel at Harvard, a famous astronomer. And he engaged people who were amateur astronomers to throw pie plant pans up in the sky and take photos of them, claim they were flying saucers, and then come out and prove they weren't, because it would discredit the whole field. Look, this tactic of what you just described, nothing new under the sun. And if you go through this briefing document, folks, please learn to read. I don't want to sound like your school teacher or professor, but people need to read, and every word of it, because it's been curated and these cases are in there. So again, I'm not dealing with conspiracy theories and speculation. This is a tried and true tactic and strategy that's been used since the 50s for 70 years.
Let's take a quick look right here at asymmetric disclosure, the trailer. Guys, watch this.
So you really have to have a select committee in the Congress and a special office in the White House to really master all this information and unpack it, and then take the action to stand down these malicious programs. And that is going to be a very heavy lift and a very dangerous operation.
The only way you're going to get to it is somebody at that executive level that says enough is enough, cut the money off, bring these people in, let's go.
Maybe just give them a threat, a very light threat. Let them know, like, this is not to be talked about any further. And if you do, something can happen.
You're either on the side of the law or you're not. And if not, which we can prove they are, you strip them of all that cover.
All we need is one to be accurate. And this whole concept of UFO crash retrieval non-existing completely falls apart.
They're doing stuff for spite, they're doing stuff to protect certain individuals or certain industries, and it's detrimental to all of us.
Oh yeah, people are all talking about World War III and all that. Well, if we don't change the trajectory we're on, we're going to be in a big problem. Nobody with any sense wants fortune and glory dealing with this. That's the mistake that they all make.
All right, we're back. And one of the moments in that trailer, some people come to me and go, wow, where does Steve get this information? But one of the key factors of the documentary, you talk about this pushing of a button that could cause catastrophic destruction across the planet. You're talking about that they're trying to skip an asteroid off the surface of the ocean to create mass tsunamis. Can you get to what was that operation called? How'd you get this knowledge? Because that's an explosive part of the documentary, Asymmetric Disclosure.
Well, look, there's a whole, let's call them a whole basket of technologies that have been developed since the 50s that deal with mass control, gravity control, things like this. And we know that part of that organization wants to create worldwide chaos so that they can step into the chaos and create a sort of a global totalitarian organization that runs the planet. That's exactly what the warm-up 9/11 was, and I think COVID was largely exploited by those same interests that way. But this is the big one. Now, being able to do what that I've had back in the 90s, I had an intelligence source who described that program where they could move an asteroid and have it hit or go near the Earth. But then, back in about 2 years ago or a little over, Jake Barber himself had been read into an operation like that, and he thought I'd be shocked. I said, no, I knew about this in the late 90s, and that there was an operation that had the ability to move that kind of object. In that case, the ETs came in and moved it out of the way. And so I always tell people, even though they're always being defamed and all kinds of mythologies around aliens, in reality, they've saved our bacon more times than you can imagine, both in terms of preventing nuclear catastrophes, but also geophysical catastrophes. But here's a problem. What happens when our technologies reach the point of parity, as good as the ET technologies, and then we're forcing them out of the arena? Who's then protecting the Earth from these psychopaths, this transnational criminal organization? My information is that it's unlikely we're going to go 2 more years without some catastrophic events happening unless we get not only asymmetric disclosure to prime the pump of official disclosure and get the bureaucrats and the government people, engaged fully. So, that's just part of it. But the other part of it is that people always misinterpret. I've made the point for decades. The false flag operations began in the late 50s and early 60s. What do I mean? Go look at what we have. And again, this whole case is also in here. It's the Norton Air Force Base, where the air show, where there were Brad Sorensen was there, and was the 1988, and there were 3 man-made UFOs in this hangar in a compartmented area for this air show at Norton Air Force Base in California, which has now been decommissioned and closed. But those were from the late 50s, early 60s, because the components inside were all from the Mercury era, right? Like the Mercury capsule. And those had been out in space and around, not interstellar, but around the solar system. And they were the older models, and they were wanting more money to build the newer ones. Now remember, this is 1988. Those were from the late 50s, early 60s. So there have been UFO events like the Tic Tac and these others, as well as abductions, as well as false flag operations that are made to look alien that aren't, that launched in the late 50s, early 60s. So the psychological warfare part of the false flag began in the 50s. That's what's key. And now it's grown apace to where the technologies we have are so advanced, they're way more advanced than that clunky alien reproduction vehicle from the early 60s. We're talking about objects that would be almost indistinguishable from an extraterrestrial vehicle. And the people I know who have been on these retrieval teams, multiple different people, don't know each other. They've said that. They say they're so good that you really would be hard-pressed to tell the difference between an alien one or extraterrestrial one or NHI one and a man-made one. Well, this is dangerous because if the people in our mainstream Department of Defense and mainstream CIA and mainstream political operations don't know this, they could easily mistake a man-made false flag operation as an alien or NHI attack. And in fact, that is the master plan that they've been working since 1953 and 1954 for 70 years.